previous paragraph, we understood that the poet is trying to say that in the moment of silence, the people, the human beings would understand that how they are harming nature, how they are destroying nature, as well as how they are harming themselves. In this paragraph, the poet is trying to say, the poet says that in the moment of silence, in that exotic moment, the people will realize that the futile and useless wars against men and nature would be arrested, would come to an end in that silent moment, and a new feeling of unity would be experienced. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. Now, green wars may have a lot of sense. First of all, green wars are conflicts caused by environmental issues, or green wars may have been used to mean that exploitation of nature, or green is a color that is associated with renewal and freshness. Also, green is traditionally associated with money, ambition, greed, jealousy, etc. So here the poet may have used to signify it that those people who initiate new wars for their greed, to fulfill their greed, to fulfill their ambitions, like the scientists, the politicians, or the power hungry people. Wars with gas means and wars with fire, these means the wars that use chemical and nuclear weapons. Victory with no survivors. When such weapons are used, then whichever side wins, there is actually no survivors left, because such weapons destroy the whole humankind, bring destruction in the whole earth. So there would be a victory, there will be a victory, but the winning side also would not have much survivors to rejoice that victory, to rejoice that triumph. And those people, in this moment of silence, those people would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade. Means here imagery has been used, symbolism has been used. To put on clean clothes means to change their selves that does bad things. By this, the poet wants to say that the people who initiate wars would change on their clothes. This doesn't only mean that they would change their blood-stained clothes, but this also means that their soul will change, their thinking, their mind setup will change, and they will walk about with their brothers in the shade. Means they will walk about with other people with love and peace in that moment of silence. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Here the poet Pablo Neruda says that what he wants should never be confused with total inactivity. He doesn't want that all work should come to a stop. He simply wants that people take a time away from their daily schedule and look within themselves, introspect themselves. Life is what it is about. Further, the poet says that life is what it is about, means that life is about moving on, and no one can bring it to a standstill position. I want no truck with death. By dealing with silence, he doesn't have any association to deal with death. He wants no truck with death, means he has no association with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, the poet says that we all are very much single-minded. We just think one thing only. That is to keep our lives moving, to arrange something for ourselves. But for once, we should do nothing. We should stop our mind and just think for what is the purpose of our lives on earth, and the uselessness of the world that we have created around ourselves. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Since the sole purpose, the single purpose of our life is to just allow it to keep moving, to keep ourselves alive. So we are very much threatened of death. And so if we would not think anything, neither of life nor of death, then a huge silence will be there, and that would interrupt the sadness that we don't ever try to understand ourselves. And then when we will introspect our feelings, our emotions, then that sadness of that we are threatened with death will come to an end. And in this stanza, the poet is trying to say that what he has discussed so far has no association with a deathly standstill position. No, no. Nothing is considered with that. He simply wants us to stop for some time and introspect ourselves.